What's up everyone, DefyNewYork.com here with a brand new video. Today we are looking at the 2013 retro of the Converse Aero Jam. Now, the original Converse Aero Jam dropped back in 1993. The first retro dropped in 2003 into 2004. Some people are reporting that the first retro came before Nike took over Converse. But I think that's incorrect because Nike actually purchased Converse in July of 2003. And from what I remember, when I purchased the first retro, they dropped about September of 2003. And that actually would make a lot of sense because for those of you that really follow sneaker culture and sneaker history and know what was going on with Converse at the time, a lot of their shoes were pretty generic and there were no major retros like this shoe coming out after they had filed bankruptcy. They filed for bankruptcy in 2001 and then they were acquired by some company for like 2 years, and there was a lot of cheesy shoes coming out for a while. You know, they stuck to like the basics, the Converse One Stars, the All Stars. There were a couple like volleyball shoes in there, and their weapons. But a lot of the retros started coming out when Nike took over, so that's why I think that's actually incorrect. And if you Google it, you'll see Nike took over back in July of 2003. And I think I can dig up some information on a release date. This color, I believe, released in, I want to say January, February of 2004, with the white, black, and turquoise releasing around September, October of 2003. So, yeah, I think Nike was involved with that retro as well. The other thing that's that I've been seeing people reporting that you couldn't remove the lace cover on the first retro. That's incorrect, and I know that for a fact because I owned the first retro, and anyone that owns the first retro can attest to this, that you can remove this lace cover on the first retro. So with that said, this retro, it's not the worst shoe by any means, but I got to say I was a little disappointed. Now, when I heard that the Converse Aero Jam was going to come back, I mean, I had spoken to Converse over the past year and mentioned the Converse Aero Jam, and they said that it came up in discussions daily to bring it back, and they were actually not going to bring it back, or maybe bring it back with an updated model. And what wound up happening is we got a surprise, and they did the right thing and brought them back semi-OG, but I mean, the number 2 is missing. The hits of turquoise right here and right here are missing, and right here you'll notice that it's just like plain gray and black. It should be like a metallic mesh underneath. Excuse me. So I mean, they did get this right on the first retro. This little detail here was not done right, and I think, I mean, in comparison to the shape of the last shoe, I think this one's a little bit better, in my opinion. I know some people disagree with that, but yeah, I think they're not the worst retro. They really are not. But I mean, leaving the number 2 off, it just did not make any sense to me, as well as leaving this teal off. I mean, I guess they figured once they would leave the number 2 off, they had to make everything else blank. But why they chose to leave the number 2 off there, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I understand that Larry Johnson is not signed to Converse, but he wasn't signed to Converse the first retro. If you'll notice that all the tags were silhouettes, they never showed his full face on it. And but they still had the number 2 on the tongue. And a lot of people think, oh well, it's just a number 2, who cares, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. No, it doesn't make the shoe look bad, but when you know how the original looked and you know how the last retro looked, that number 2, it just looks blank. It just looks like it was unfinished. And that's really what this retro looks like, an unfinished retro. Now, had they put that number 2 with little hits of turquoise and the little mesh, even minus the mesh, metallic mesh on the side, it would have looked a lot better. But the shoe just looks unfinished. And for that, I'm very disappointed in this retro. You know, it's the little details that complete the shoe, you know. And it was unfortunate that they did that, and I'm assuming they're gonna do that for all the other shoes that come out after. Now, sizing, they run a little snug, so I'd advise go a half size up. Whatever you wear in an MX-90, I would go with the knees. They are not very cushioned. They're not a very cushioned shoe, but they're not the worst shoe. And this nubuck is very, very thick and smooth, almost like velvet, to be honest. But if you'll notice in the pictures, it's prone to looking a little ashy, but that's just because it's very thick. It's actually very nice. I don't recall the originals being this thick. And overall, I mean, I'm seeing prices go from the $140 to $200 range. They're not that easy to track down. You know, some spots still have them, most spots don't. They sold pretty well. And especially after Trinidad James showed up, that was it. You know, a lot of the people saw that and they were like, "Oh, I have to have them." You know, they don't care about the history. They just had to have it. And it's a dope shoe. It's a, you know, if you grew up with that, or if you didn't grow up with this shoe and Grandmama and seeing Larry Johnson dressed up as you know, Grandmama character on Family Matters and stuff like that. If you didn't grow up with that, you could always go back, check it out, and see how things were, you know, and understand why, you know, yeah, the shoe looked awesome, but why we still have these memories for this shoe. But you got both shoes together. So overall, it's not the worst shoe, but I mean, I'm very disappointed in Converse. I do not know why they didn't put that number 2 on there. There was no reason not to put that number 2. They wouldn't. I could not see any legal issues why. I mean, you can't. It's not trademarked, copywritten. You know, the number 2 is not. You know, is not a name. It was you know, his Larry Johnson's number, but it was just the number 2. You're not calling these the Converse Larry Johnsons. So I don't understand what the reasoning behind that was. But anyhow, that is the video. Well, this part of the video. Next part, I'm going to show you guys what they look like on your feet with shorts and with jeans. Alright everyone, that's the video. You got to see what they look like on your feet with shorts, with jeans. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, make sure to drop me a line. Let me know how you feel that they're missing the number 2 on them. And the hits of turquoise right here. Tell me, your memories of the 2003 or even the original for that matter. So anyhow, that's the video. Stay tuned for more.